It is that time of year where everyone is reflecting on the past 365 days, and if you are a book girly like me, then you're also reflecting on all of the books that you have read, and you're maybe picking out the best books you've read this year and maybe also the worst books you have read this year. In today's video, I'm going to share with you all of my 5-star reads in the year of 2024. This year, I have read over 100 books. I think I landed somewhere at like 115 books for the year of 2024. And I just want to say that in 2023, I ended the year around like maybe 30 books. And so what happened in 2024, I don't know. If you're sitting there wondering how does one read so many books within a year, I just want to let you know that reading is my life. Okay, this is quite literally my only hobby. I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't watch a lot of movies. If I have any downtime, I'm reading, and over this past year, I feel like I have used books as the ultimate escape. So I have read 115 books this year, and I have 23 5-star reads, and I have divided all of these books into their respective genres. So I have 12 5-star romance reads, I have 3 5-star fantasy reads, 7 5-star thriller reads, and 1 fiction 5-star read. I feel like in 2023, most of the books I was reading was fantasy, and 2024 was truly a year of exploration for me in my reading. I didn't become a big reader until like the beginning of 2023, so I'm fairly new to my reading journey. It's been so much fun sharing this journey with you guys, and I just want to say before we get into this video that one of the highlights for my year, if I'm really reflecting on the past 365 days, the best thing that has been in my life over this past year is you guys. But I could sit here and yap about that forever, and I don't want to bore you this early in the video, so without further ado, let's get into all of my 5-star reads for 2024, and we're going to start with the thriller genre. 7 5-star thriller books, and within each genre I have went and ranked it from my top 5-star read to the read that is still 5 stars but is on the bottom of my 5-star list, and I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up to my ultimate 5-star read for each genre. So starting with thriller, we have The September House by Clarissa Orlando. I listened to this on audio, and the audio was pure magic. Kimberly Farr was the narrator for The September House, and the way that she fit the main female character, whose name I can't remember at this time, Margaret, the way that she matched Margaret's voice so perfectly, it no longer sounds like I'm listening to a book. It sounds like I'm listening to somebody tell me about their day. It sounds like I'm listening to someone tell me their life story, and the way that that is so much more submersive, and it was just so perfect. So if you're looking to get into the horror genre but you're not quite sure if you're going to like it, I think this is a really good place to start. The way that the main female character Margaret is like aware of what's happening around her, and she's like, this isn't right, but it is what it is. Margaret has this like lighthearted aspect to her personality, which makes the things that is happening around her a little comical because she's just so nonchalant about it. But the ending, it definitely does ramp up, and there is some very gory, questionable things happening on page. Next, we have Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera, another book that I listened to on the audio, and the audio was absolutely fantastic. This book is essentially a podcaster who's trying to solve cold cases, and this book is about the current cold case that he's trying to solve. So there are points in the book where he is like talking on a podcast, and the audio version just really brings those segments to life and just makes it so much more fun. What I really like about this book is it is a thriller, and it's giving you little hints and little nuggets about the actual ending within the book, and it makes sense in the end. And if you are really paying attention, you could possibly figure out what's going to happen in the end. And that's one of the reasons that I love to read thriller books, is I want to like listen to the book and see if I can follow along and guess the ending. It's even better whenever I'm wrong, because if I'm wrong, I'm like, oh my god, how could I miss it? If I'm wrong in the ending and it still makes sense to the plot line, it's like that is perfection, and that's what this book was. I thought I knew what was happening. I did not. Next book is a Lucinda Berry book, which is The Perfect Child. I actually have 2 5-star Lucinda Berry books, so there is another Lucinda Berry book coming up soon. This is crazy. This is crazy. Every time I read a Lucinda Berry book, I just cannot help myself but put myself in the character's shoes. And this is about a mother who has adopted a child And the child is kind of crazy. Real crazy. Putting yourself in the mother's shoes of like always wanting to have a child, not being able to have a child, adopting a child, and the child is crazy. It was just so fun reading this book, and the way it unfolds is just so good. Up next we have Slewfoot by Brom. If you love witches and you love thrillers, you will love this book. The way that I felt like I was a little fly watching the story unfold in front of me, and just really the whole journey of the main female character, Abatha. So Abatha comes from a long line of witches, but of course this is taking place in 1666, and during this time period, witches are kind of like, people are scared of witches, they don't like witches, they're killing witches, they're burning them, hanging them, all of the things that they used to do with witches. This is when this story is taking place, and while Abatha is not really trying to pursue her witchiness, she's just trying to exist in this world and just to make a living with her and her husband. It is kind of like her fate. It's her destiny. It's in her blood. It's who she is. She is a witch, and that just kind of manifests itself in her daily life. And that is not okay. People are very uncomfortable by this, but eventually Abatha finds herself communicating with Slewfoot, and Slewfoot is another word for the devil. We are in our top 3, so coming in third, we have Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. If you're looking for a book that is going to give you the heebie-jeebies and just kind of make you uncomfortable whenever you're reading it, I would suggest this book. Now, I wasn't 100% satisfied with the ending, but for me, this is one of those books that everything that happened before the ending of the book just made the book, and I can overlook the ending. This book is about a couple who goes on vacation to a cabin in the middle of the woods, and weird shit starts to happen, like paranormal type shit. They're seeing people in the woods, they're finding stuff in the woods, people are banging on their house, or they thought it was people, but no one's actually there. They're being tormented by something, but they can't exactly see what it is. But then something starts to happen to the wife. If you're looking for a creepy read, it's this one. Competing for the top position, #1 5-star read, was really, really tough. And I really stared at these two books for a long time, and I was like, I don't know which book to put first. So these will say could possibly be a tie. Coming in second, we have You Seen Sarah Baker by T.A. Cruz. Kind of was saying this earlier, but when a thriller book is cohesive through and through, and that every piece of information ties into the final conclusion, that makes an incredible thriller book, in my opinion. There are a lot of thriller books that are out there where a lot of information is there purely to throw off the reader. They're giving you like misleading information, you have an unreliable narrator, and the ending is just not satisfying because it made no sense to the whole entire plotline of the book. That is not how Have You Seen Sarah Baker is. Every piece of information makes sense. So much to the point where I whipped out my cork board and I made a murder board trying to solve what was happening in this book. And it was so much fun. The fluidity of this book and just how perfect. It's perfect! It's a perfect book! Which, coming in #1, we have another Lucinda Berry book, which is Saving Noah. This is considered a psychological thriller, but I think Lucinda Berry truly needs her own genre, because if you're going into this book thinking it's going to be some sort of like twisty-turny popcorn thriller, you're not going to get that here. This book makes you think about something that is so taboo, and people have a really strong negative opinion about this topic. And this book revolves around a mother and her son, and her son is starting to have some very questionable tendencies, and it's really from the mother's point of view of what do you do when your child is exhibiting these kind of behaviors. And whenever your child comes to you and asks you a question that no mother should ever have to debate on helping their child. As a mother debating on how to fix this problem that there is no cure for. And it's just, the way this book has literally changed part of my brain. It's really the epilogue that did it to me, and I think that's, you know, a uniquely me problem and my life circumstance problem. But this book had me bawling my eyes out. This was me reading Saving Noah. I was unwell And for that, I love it. That has wrapped up the thriller genre. Let's go ahead and move into romance. Coming in the 12th spot for my 5-star reads in romance, we have Lights Out by Navessa Allen. My cat was chewing the corner of this book. That is rude. If you're looking for a place to get into dark romance and you're not quite sure if you would like it, I would suggest Lights Out by Navessa Allen, because while this is considered a stalker romance, it's kind of like a consensual stalking romance, which saying those two words together feels wrong. Like you wouldn't ever think to say consensually stalking someone, but that is what is happening within this book. And of course, I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. That is why it is in this video. And I'm trying to stop talking so much about each book because I don't want this video to be an hour long. So we're gonna move on to the next book, which is Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. This is the first and only Julie Soto book that I have read, which is criminal of me. I know she has another book out. It's on my shelf. Why I haven't read it yet, I don't know. I love the dynamic between the two characters in this book. You have a grumpy florist and a like sunshine wedding planner. So he's a florist, she's a wedding planner. And it's a second chance romance. I eat up second chance romances. You could say that it is one of my favorite tropes within romance books. The way this book is like realistic in the aspects of the grumpiness of the main male character. Sometimes I feel like you have the grumpy sunshine trope, but like the grumpy is like way over top. Like he is so grumpy for what fucking like calm down, dude, calm down. I feel like he is a representation of like a grumpy man. A lot of the things that he says kind of reminds me of my husband. If me and my husband could be a book trope, it would be Grumpy versus Sunshine. Next we have Leather and Lark by Brynne Weaver. Every time I hold this book, I get flustered because I think of the bonus chapter and oh my god, the way that I was not expecting the bonus chapter. I liked Leather and Lark more than I liked Butcher and Blackbird. I just like the relationship between these two characters a little bit more than I did in the first book. And I did listen to the audio for this book and it was narrated by Eric Nolan and Samantha Brittmore, and oh my god, did they feel like they performed their hearts out for this book. It was just so good. We do love Brynne Weaver for her very extensive, very questionable trigger warning list. Next we have Not So Meet Cute by Megan Klin. This is the first book in a trilogy, the Kane Brothers trilogy, and this is my favorite book within the whole series. I honestly wouldn't be mad at you if you read this book and didn't read the rest of the series. It's another Grumpy versus Sunshine book, which I'm starting to realize that perhaps I read a lot of Grumpy versus Sunshine. The way that I was giggling all throughout the book, and the way that I just was rooting for them, and the way that the Grumpy of Huxley just was kind of a little over the top, but like in the best way. This book starts with the main female character being down bad. Like she just got fired, she still lives at home, like she's like questioning what she's doing with her life, and she comes to the conclusion that she just needs to find a rich hot husband. So she comes up with a plan on how to find said guy, but also when she runs into Huxley, he is looking for a fake relationship, he's looking for a fake fiance, and the rest is history. The next book is actually 2 books, but they go together, and that is Saving Six and Redeeming Six. This is part of the Boys of Tommen series. There's 5 books in this series, and this is the 3rd and 4th book. And I love Joey and Aoife's story so much. And these are long books, and you kind of do have to read the first 2 books before you get to here. I would recommend reading the whole series as they were published. What I love about these 2 books is that you kind of grow up with these people, and the main male character is going through something so hard, and he's trying to navigate this, and he's not making the best decisions for himself and for his health, and he is kind of losing his mental strength. And the way that Aoife, the main female character, is just exactly who Joey needed in this time period as they are facing these really hard challenges in life, and just the whole journey that they go on together is just so good. This is definitely one of those series that you have to be ready to go on the voyage. It is a journey. You are getting every little details in these people's life, but I feel like I'm their friend. I feel like I am there with them, and I am rooting for them as a reader, and I love that so much. Next we have Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This is a second chance romance. In this book, you flip back between the past and the present, and there was something that happened in the past that caused these two people to kind of go their separate ways. But one of the people, the main male character, has unresolved feelings, and he doesn't really know what happened within their relationship. So when they run into each other as adults, it's like they're kind of picking up right where they left off. But the main female character is kind of working through shit. She's going through shit, and she still has like unresolved feelings about this relationship in her past. The main male character, Elliot, is just, he's a respectable man. He is a man. His communication skills and the way that he is just, I love Elliot. I love him. And I love this book. Now we have made it into my top 5. So coming in the 5th spot, we have Kid by Jessie Hall. I have read almost every Jessie Hall book this year. The only book that I have not read is The Canary Cowards. This is the only romance book that I have read where the whole story is told through the male character's point of view. And that is so fascinating. It was so unique. And the way that I low-key related to just the mindset of the characters and some of the things that they were actively battling with, I have been in their shoes at one point in my life, and just their mindset was refreshing to read about someone who was struggling mentally. That's why I love Jessie Hall's books. They feel real in representing people in their hard times and in their struggles. Getting down to the point where we're narrowing down like what is like at the top of my 5-star list was extremely difficult, and the next 4 books was so hard to decide like at what spot do they fall on this list. But coming in 4th, we have Heartless by Elsie Silver. I love this book so much. Cade is the main male character in this book, and he is quite literally perfection. The depth to the characters in this book and just the things that they are going through and the way that they manifest themselves in the personality of the characters, perfect, realistic, amazing, delicious. This is another Grumpy versus Sunshine book, which it's kind of shocking. I didn't realize I had so many 5-star Grumpy vs. Sunshine books. This book is a Grumpy vs. Sunshine single dad cowboy romance. I love all of those words together. This is one of those books where I could see them still married to this day. They are going to grow old and wrinkly together. Now we're in the top 3. Coming in the 3rd spot, we have Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. The reason I love this book so much is because of the second part. So this book is divided within 3 parts. You have part 1, which is the trauma that is happening. You get to see what is happening to these characters and is hopefully the most traumatic thing that they ever go through in their lives. Then you have part 2, which is them coming back to reality, having to live their life post the traumatic event and just how weird and strange that feels. And then part 3 is kind of like hope core, you know, like they get their happily ever after. But it's part 2 that really deeply resonated with me, just watching these characters kind of like have this thing that they're battling with internally, but having to just go on with life. Life moves on. You know, shitty things happen in your life and you just have to like go to the next day, like, you know, you're not still stuck on that day. And the representation of what that is like, I thought was really well done in this book. We have made it to the final 2, and this decision felt impossible. It felt impossible to make. So I guess, you know, because I can't say who is the best, I'm gonna say that they were a tie, again, just like I did for the thriller books. In the 2nd spot, we have The Confidence of Wallflowers by Macaulay Smeltzer. This is a duology. There is a second book that follows this, and there's actually also a novella that kind of just wraps up everything if you want more from the characters, and you probably will. Okay, so in order to talk about why I love this book so much, I kind of have to spoil something that happens within the book, but it's also kind of in the trigger warnings. There is child loss that happens in this book, and what I appreciated about this is that when the child loss happens, it happens, I don't know how to say this without kind of just being so nonchalant about it, but when the child loss happens, it's so real and the shock of it, and like the suddenness of it, and how unexpected it is, and seeing the characters go through it, I thought it was realistic. When I read this book, I was in the depths of my grief. This book is a perfect example of why I appreciate authors who write about the harder things that happen in life, because I love to read a book that I can see myself in the characters, and I can see my life in the plot and like relate to what's happening. And while losing a child is thankfully a very niche group, it's a very niche community, and I hope it forever stays that way, it happens to people, and reading about it made me feel better. Now, I don't think you have to have lost a child to have this book still be deeply impactful. I think there's other aspects to the characters and what they're going through and what they're trying to overcome that is really great. I'm forever grateful to Mikaela Smelter for choosing to write this book. And it is tied with my #1 spot, which is Out on the Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. Now, it was really hard for me to pick who is first. I love this book so much because I love the journey of the main female character, and it almost feels like you watch her come into herself and be more confident with herself. Beau, who is the main male character, and he is everything. Beau is that book boyfriend. He is perfect. The book does revolve around a one-night stand that did ultimately end in pregnancy, and it's the two characters trying to discover what are they going to do about that, because they don't know each other. So what are they going to do about this surprise pregnancy? And usually I don't love a pregnancy trope, just because most of the time, or the books that I have read that had the pregnancy trope in them, it seems like there's an aspect of the main female character that becomes weak, or she, you know, her whole identity becomes being the pregnant woman, and I don't love that representation of pregnancy. But I think this book was perfect, and I have zero complaints, and it's like a found family that happens within this book, and the friendships and just everything. Zero complaints. I love this book so much. When I finished it, I closed it and said, yep, that's a 6-star read. It's just phenomenal. We're in the home stretch if you're still with me, okay? This is a long video. There's no way around it. We're yapping about books, trying to wrap up 23 of my 5-star reads. I'm really trying to not yap about them for too long. I'm trying. But we only have 3 books left, which is the fantasy genre. Coming in my 3rd spot for fantasy, we have A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. When I initially finished this book, I said it's gonna be a 4.5 for me, and it was me being petty when I said that, and that was because I was angry with the main female character because she started to be a little crazy towards the end. But when I sat on it and I simmered and I like reflected on the plot of this book, it made sense, and I appreciated it, and I changed my mind. It was 5 stars. And I say that because any fantasy book that can have me hooting and hollering around my house by the end of the book, 5 stars. We'll say when you have like 1/4 of the book left, and you can either feel one or two ways. You can feel like, oh my god, can we wrap this up? I'm over it. Can we get to it already? Or you can be like on the edge of your seat, like flipping the pages, like what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And that's how I was when I was reading A Fate Inked in Blood, and the ending. Oh, I'm so excited for the second book that is coming out in 2025. This is the first Viking fantasy that I have read, and I want to read more Viking fantasies. In my #2 spot, we have Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. I listened to this on audio. The audio was absolutely fantastic. If you are looking for a good fantasy audio, let it be this one. I loved everything about this book. What I really love about this book was the dynamic between the two main characters, and this could be my favorite trope within fantasy books, and I don't even know the name of the trope. It's whenever the two characters are in love with each other, but they don't want to admit that they're in love with each other. It's not quite enemies to lovers, because I feel like, you know, in romance, that would be labeled enemies to lovers. You have Prince Envy, who feeds on making people jealous. It's how he like regains his power. He wants to make the people around him jealous. He's the Prince of Envy. And then you have the main female character who is like being dragged along this scavenger hunt with Prince Envy. She's like trying to help him find what he needs to win this scavenger hunt, and she's like doesn't want to be attracted to this man, but she low-key kinda is. And also just the plot of like going on the scavenger hunt and not knowing what's happening and just trying to figure that out with the characters as they're like battling this attraction. It was just, it was so good. It is a romantasy, if you couldn't tell by the way that I was explaining that. Actually, all of my 5-star fantasy books are romantasies, and I'm not even mad about it. Coming in my number 1 spot for fantasy, we have Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. It was so perfect. The video got cut off because my SD card had too much storage, and I spent the last 10 minutes, I'm not even joking, looking for my other SD card. I'm like searching high and low for this SD card, and it was attached to this thing. So I'm looking for this thing. Where is it? Where is it? I'm looking everywhere. It was under my pillow because sometimes I'll edit in bed. It took me like 15 minutes to just find the SD card that was under my pillow. So I don't know exactly where I ended off talking about Phantasma. I love this world so much. It is a dark gothic paranormal fantasy, but the paranormal is the aspect of like there being ghosts and demons, and Blackwell is actually a demon himself, and I'm in love with a demon. One more book before the end of this video, which is the only fiction book that is a 5-star read for me, which is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I am actually currently reading another Kristen Hanna book, which is The Raid Alone, and I'm so excited for it because I hear nothing but good things about Kristen Hanna, really. And this is the first book that I read from her, and it is just so touching. It is a historical fiction, and it is the only historical fiction that I have read in my adulthood, other than, you know, when I was in high school and was forced to read To Kill a Mockingbird. But this book is just so insightful and really impactful into the lives of people who are affected by the choices of their government that results in war, and what that looks like for normal citizens. It's gut-wrenching. It absolutely tore my heart out at multiple times, and I bawled like a baby. That is all of my 23 5-star reads for 2024. Good lord, I don't know how long this video is, but I bet it's gonna be a long one. At this point, I'm interested to hear your favorite reads for the year. What I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to narrow it down to like my top 5-star reads for 2024, which I feel like is gonna be damn near impossible. This is the final video that I'm creating for 2024, and it's kind of crazy. 2025 is going to be like the beginning of a new book for me. It's not a new chapter. We're ending that whole book and we're starting another one. And I look forward to another year with you guys talking about books and just whatever adventures 2025 has to offer. There's a part of me that I'm like battling with myself. I'm like, girl, wrap this video up. Stop yapping to these people. But I'm like, I want to tell you that I love you and I'm grateful for you. And I want to tell you that every single time that I make a video that you guys are just the best. But I'll stop. Until next time, that's all that I have for you guys today. Okay, bye. Love you.